Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Just got off the air with Leroy. He's arguing with me again. Look, we were just having this argument about Goran Dragic versus Tim Hardaway, because Tim Hardaway was on the OG's podcast, right? And I would tend to agree with the idea that Tim Hardaway is the greatest point guard in Heat history. I wouldn't even, Leroy is sitting here just very dismissive of the fact that Goran Dragic gets to have a debate about it. Can we have a debate about Goran Dragic? And he's just, no, can't have a debate about it. And I think it's ridiculous. I think Goran and Tim Hardaway, it's closer than you think. It's closer than you think. But anyway, I don't want to quibble over that. You guys can go back, watch the Tobin and Leroy show and the argument we got into with that. But Tim Hardaway was on the OGs, which is a great podcast, by the way. If you guys haven't checked out UD and Mike Miller's new podcast, I mean, the episodes that they do, especially with the former Heat players, is just, it's top notch. I was pissing my pants laughing with the Mario Chalmers episode. I was listening to Tim Hardaway. It's great listening to, because it's like a perfect amount, like what I'm driving into the studio. So anyway, shout out to the guys. They've done a great job with the podcast thus far. But what do you know? It's that time of year. ESPN, our old friends, our old friends have come through with their NBA contender tiers, okay? Now, if you guys remember this, they were, I believe a couple of years ago, they were known as dangerous loomers. That's what the Miami Heat were known as. And which turned out to be right. They were very dangerous, looming over everybody like a guillotine, and then slice through the Eastern Conference. So they have come out with their tiers for this season and where we stand after the All-Star break. This is a piece written by a guy named Kevin Pelton, big numbers guy. And let's go through what they have to say, because I want to know, are the Miami Heat in one of their tiers? And this is what they have. Tier 1, the favorite, Boston Celtics at plus 260. Now, this would be a shock to, I would say, nobody, because this media outlet, they love them some Boston Celtics. Of course, Boston is going to be put in as the favorite, a very heavy favorite, which is over the next three people, which they call the inner circle contenders. This would include the defending champion, Denver Nuggets, the LA Clippers, who I think the LA Clippers, when healthy, are probably the best team I've seen the Heat play so far this year. The only thing that obviously has to scare you, and it's a big one, is you have James Harden running your show, and James Harden in the playoffs. Like, come on, you can't not be terrified of that if you're a Clippers fan. But I would say they have been one of the best teams, if not the best team I've seen Miami take on this year. They really are good. Milwaukee plus 650 right now in their tiers, so they're on the inner circle right now. What he writes for the Bucks, as uneven as Milwaukee's season has been, including a midseason coaching change, it's impossible to ignore the Bucks' talent. In that same ranking of the most effective high minutes lineups, Milwaukee's starting five rates number one with a plus 15.3 net rating, albeit aided by inaccurate opponent 3-point shooting. Okay, saying again, a little bit lucky there, but they're on the inner circles. Then they have a thing called the hopefuls. He got to be in the hopefuls, right? Like, come on, dude. Hopefuls got to be in tier 3. Nope. Here's the hopefuls. It's a deep list. Cleveland, Minnesota, the Knicks, Oklahoma City, the Sixers, and the Suns. Those are their hopefuls. It says this tier is largely represented by newcomers and contender ranks. If the season ended today, 4 of the 8 teams to host opening round series would have combined for one series win since 2018. That would be the Knicks of last season. By contrast, the 4 teams above these hopeful tiers, everyone but the Clippers has won 8 series in that span all by itself. All right, so that's them. And then we get to tier 4, the Longshots. And wouldn't you know it, they have dubbed the Miami Heat a long shot to win the championship this year. Okay? The the Longshots: Dallas, Golden State, Los Angeles Lakers, the Pelicans, and the Miami Heat. So this is where they put them. Not in the hopefuls, not in the inner circle, even though the Miami Heat have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 out of the last 4 years. With Jimmy Butler, one of the best playoff players of all time. Certainly of this era. Certainly of this crop of NBA players. The Miami Heat, looked at as a long shot by ESPN. And Pelton writes, given the Heat's run to the finals last year, there's precedent for considering these long shots as title contenders. Still, it would be surprising if any of them actually takes the championship. No team to win it all since 94-95 Houston Rockets has played less than a 52 win pace during the regular season, and the best team in that group would need to go 19-10 the rest of the way to get there. Now, this is one of the interesting things. The Miami Heat's strength of schedule the rest of the way is not very strong. The Miami Heat's, I think it is the third weakest schedule, according to Tankathon.com. So the Miami Heat are set up for a bit of a second half, although you could really call it like a last third push here with their last 27 games. The thing that also just makes this hilarious of like if you're going to separate tiers between the Knicks and the Sixers and the Bucks, it would be one to act like the Miami Heat going on a good run in a couple of weeks couldn't pass these teams. Like the idea that the Miami Heat would finish this season as the 3 seed in the East is really not that crazy, okay? They're 4 games back of Milwaukee in the loss column right now. This is not an outrageous thing that I'm throwing out there. And I feel like a lot of Heat fans are looking at this and they're expecting the Miami Heat to come back and be very wishy-washy and to go back and forth and to have some uneasiness with the rest of this season. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Miami, because they had figured some things out, they know they have gotten back to their defensive identity. And it seems like they are not going to miss Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler is back on Instagram working out. I don't think Miami is going to come stumbling out of the blocks here. Now, they don't have Terry Rozier. That's that definitely is a tough element, but it's not like they don't have ways to buoy that with him gone. Like they can put Duncan Robinson in the starting lineup, basically have a backcourt of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, figure that out. They add DeLon Wright, so they have some guard help. Now, this is not as dire a situation as it may have seemed before that they had the DeLon Wright move to get through this regular season until Terry is healthy. Do they need him to succeed in the playoffs? I would say so. I think you need Terry Rozier to be an important part of that to succeed in the playoffs, to have any real chance. And, of course, this is a playoffs that is going to weigh very, very heavily on the future of Tyler Hero. He knows that. The franchise knows that. The future of this core of Bam, Jimmy, and Tyler very much rests on whatever this end of season run is. Even if it ends in the second round this year, you could probably see some big changes coming for the Miami Heat. So, but to go into this idea, you're going to call them long shots. I would ask, you really look at all these teams above them and you would pick. I know people will pick the Celtics, so I'm not going to. I know they will. That's, do that at your own risk. But I know they'll pick the Celtics. Fine. Pick your stupid Celtics with their season. But people would honestly go into a first-round series against Cleveland, Milwaukee, the Knicks, and the Sixers. And you'll pick them against the Miami Heat. I know because the bums will. The bums will pick against the Miami Heat. But they'll feel good about it. And when the Miami Heat do win those series, anyone's really going to look back at this and say, oh, that was a surprise. That was a surprise. Because this isn't the same thing as last year. If you've, they I know technically have the same record as they did through 55 games last year, but this team feels like they've added some pieces and dynamics to them and do have that experience to put teams away more so than they did last year, where it felt like every game basically could be a coin flip. So put them as a long shot. That's fine. I'm not surprised that this is the way that these bums at ESPN wanted to go. But, it is just adorable. We keep doing these things. Like, you'll watch a month of Knicks basketball and it'll be given more hope than Miami Heat giving you 3 years of good basketball and being like, no benefit of the doubt to you guys. The Knicks, of course. The Sixers with a Joel Embiid who's dealing with a knee injury. You have faith that he's going to come back and be healthy. That's your first mistake. Secondly, the idea that he's all of a sudden going to get you to the conference finals. We'll give more faith into that than we do the Miami Heat and their resume and their track record. It's just interesting to me. It's very interesting. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are full of guys on their team where the lights are too bright for the playoffs. But we'll put more of a benefit of the doubt to them than we do the Miami Heat. It's adorable. I don't even want to get mad about the Celtics thing because that one, as soon as I clicked on this article, I was like, we know who's going to go to the top. All right. And for every O'Keefe and O'Malley who wants to be like, what are you, butthead? You butthead from the season? Dude, come on. You're proud of that last game? You're proud of that last game against the Miami Heat? Where your alleged second best or best player, Jaylen Brown, is getting embarrassed by Duncan Robinson? This is what you're proud of? Please. So, I'm not going to say I'm surprised by what I read. I would say the top 3 teams, not surprising. Milwaukee's an interesting one. I don't know why we're going to all of a sudden, we're just going to, let's just brush aside what we're watching. What are we watching? We're watching a team that seems to have a lot of unrest around it, but I'm just supposed to ignore it just because of what their starting 5 did early on in the season. Okay. If you say so, Pelton, if that's what you want to go with, by all means, dude. By all means. But why should I be surprised? The bums won't talk about it. And when they do, this is what they do. So, shouldn't be surprised to read this. Disappointed? Sure. Would have thought people learned from their mistakes last year. But alas, here we are yet again, having to teach them the same lesson over and over and over. Rub their nose in it.